Where did they go? Entire cities once filled with life now lie silent. Petra, carved into desert cliffs, abandoned to the sands. The Maya, builders of towering pyramids, swallowed by jungle. Cahokia, greater than London in its time, left as quiet grassy mounds. These were not small villages. They were powerful civilizations, masters of trade, art, and science. And yet, one by one, they vanished, leaving behind ruins that still whisper across the centuries. Tonight, we journey into their silence to uncover the haunting mystery of civilizations that disappeared without a trace. Where did they go? That question has haunted historians, explorers, and dreamers for centuries. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of an abandoned city, walls crumbling into dust, temples half swallowed by vines, streets where no footsteps echo. The air is heavy with silence, as though the voices of thousands have been stolen by time. There is no farewell note, no final message carved into stone, just absence. An absence so complete that it raises more questions than it answers. All across the world, civilizations rose with brilliance. They mastered farming, tamed rivers, built cities with precision, and created art that spoke to the gods. These were not scattered tribes living in isolation. They were vast societies with bustling markets, grand ceremonies, and rulers who commanded loyalty and fear. And yet, in a single lifetime, or sometimes over the course of just a few centuries, entire cultures faded into shadows. The ancient ruins of the Indus Valley, the desert carvings of Petra, the mighty pyramids of the Maya, and the earthen mounds of North America all carry the same haunting theme. People who vanished without leaving clear reasons why. Some civilizations crumbled under the weight of war, famine, or environmental disaster. Others seemed to simply dissolve, leaving behind architectural masterpieces, but no living descendants to explain their stories. Think of the questions this raises. Did they migrate to safer lands? Were they destroyed by enemies? Did natural disasters sweep across their homelands, wiping out entire generations? Or is there something more mysterious, something beyond the explanations we hold today? Archaeologists dig into the soil searching for answers. They find broken pottery, faded murals, bones buried under collapsed roofs. Each artifact tells part of the story, but never the whole. And so, we piece together fragments, like listening to echoes of a conversation long since ended. But perhaps what makes these disappearances so captivating is not just the mystery itself, it's what it says about us. Civilizations that once believed they were eternal turned out to be fragile. No matter how advanced, no matter how strong, no society has proven immune to the forces of time, nature, and human struggle. Now, as you listen and drift deeper into this story, let your imagination carry you. Picture walking along empty avenues once crowded with life. Hear the faint murmur of merchants calling out their wares, mothers singing lullabies, priests chanting before stone altars. These are sounds you cannot truly hear, but you feel them, like ghosts clinging to the ruins. Tonight, we will journey through some of the most haunting mysteries of lost civilizations. We will travel to the rose-red city of Petra, where the Nabateans carved beauty into stone only to vanish into the desert sands. We will walk beneath the towering pyramids of the Maya, where temples now sit in silence, swallowed by jungle. We will stand on the great earthen mounds of Cahokia, where tens of thousands once thrived in North America before fading into history. Each of these civilizations tells us something about survival, adaptation, and fragility. And as you listen, allow your mind to wander, not just to their endings, but to the worlds they once built. For though their people are gone, their stories still breathe in stone, soil, and memory. So where did they go? Perhaps tonight, as you listen in the quiet, you may find yourself walking among them, if only in dreams. High in the deserts of Jordan, carved into rose-red cliffs, lies a city that looks as though it was dreamed rather than built. Petra, a place where the mountains themselves were sculpted into temples, tombs, and palaces. To see it even today is breathtaking, but to imagine it in its glory, alive with voices and colors, is to step into a world both magnificent and mysterious. The people who built this wonder were the Nabateans, a powerful culture of traders, engineers, and visionaries. 2,000 years ago, they controlled the lifeblood of commerce, the caravan routes that carried spices, incense, silks, and precious stones across deserts. From Arabia to the Mediterranean, from Egypt to Mesopotamia, goods passed through Nabatean hands. This wealth allowed them to carve an empire not of conquest, but of cunning trade. At the heart of it stood Petra, a city hidden between rugged cliffs and accessible only through a narrow canyon called the Sick. Imagine walking through it. Tall sandstone walls rising hundreds of feet above you, colors shifting with the light, gold, pink, crimson. The path narrows and twists until suddenly it opens, revealing the city's most iconic monument, the treasury. Its facade, carved directly into the mountain, glows in the desert sun like a jewel. Columns, statues, and intricate carvings, yet all made not of marble or imported stone, but of the cliffs themselves. The Nabateans were more than artists. They were master engineers. In a land of dry deserts, they created complex water systems, canals, cisterns, and dams that captured and preserved every drop of rainfall. With this water, they made gardens bloom where there should have been none. They built theaters, markets, and temples. Their culture blended influences from Greece, Rome, Egypt, and Arabia, for Petra was a crossroads of civilizations. But then silence. By the 7th century, Petra was abandoned. The Nabateans, once rulers of trade and masters of the desert, disappeared. How? Why? Some scholars suggest the shifting of trade routes spelled their doom. When sea trade grew more important than desert caravans, Petra lost its lifeblood. The wealth dried up, and with it, the strength to maintain such a city. Others point to devastating earthquakes in the 4th and 6th centuries, which shattered buildings and infrastructure. Still others wonder if political pressures from surrounding empires, Rome and Byzantium, pushed the Nabateans into decline. And yet, none of these fully explain the mystery. For when you walk through Petra today, it feels less like a city that was slowly abandoned and more like one that was suddenly left behind. The grandeur of its monuments remains, carved in eternal stone, but the everyday traces of life, villages, records, artifacts of a living people are strangely scarce. It is as if the Nabateans melted back into the desert from which they came, swallowed by sand and silence. The Bedouins who later lived among the ruins told stories of spirits guarding the city. For centuries, Petra was a legend to outsiders, known as the Lost City, until it was rediscovered by a European traveler in the 19th century. But even after its rediscovery, its greatest mystery endures. Where did the Nabateans go? Did they scatter into smaller communities, blending into other Arab tribes? Did disease weaken them? Or did they simply choose to abandon Petra once it no longer served its purpose, leaving behind only monuments too massive to erase? As you imagine Petra now, its temples glowing under moonlight, its silent streets filled once with the laughter of children, the hum of markets, the prayers of priests, remember that the Nabateans were not ghosts. They were real people who lived, thrived, and dreamed. Their disappearance reminds us that even the most dazzling achievements can be as fragile as sand in the wind. And so Petra remains, not just a ruin, but a question carved in stone. Deep in the emerald jungles of Central America, beneath canopies where parrots call and howler monkeys roar, lie cities that once rivaled the great civilizations of the old world. Towering pyramids, sprawling palaces, and ball courts stand as silent witnesses to the brilliance of the Maya, a people whose knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and architecture still astonishes the modern world. For nearly 2,000 years, the Maya thrived. From what is now Mexico through Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize, their cities shone like jewels across the jungle. Each city-state was a world unto itself, ruled by kings adorned in jade, feathers, and obsidian, surrounded by nobles, priests, merchants, and farmers. The Maya understood the cycles of the stars with extraordinary precision. They developed a calendar so accurate it rivaled the one we use today. Their written language, carved into stone and painted onto codices, told stories of gods, kings, and battles. Picture a Maya city in its prime. Wide plazas crowded with people, merchants trading cacao beans and woven textiles, priests performing elaborate rituals on the steps of pyramids, drums and flutes echoing through the air. Children chase each other in the dusty streets, while farmers carry maize, the sacred corn that sustained life, into the bustling markets. Life was vibrant, organized, and deeply connected to the cosmos. And then, between the 8th and 9th centuries, the Great Collapse began. Cities such as Tikal, Copan, and Palenque, once thriving centers of power, fell silent. Inscriptions that had marked the reigns of kings ceased. Temples, once freshly painted in reds and blues, faded into the encroaching jungle. By the time Spanish explorers arrived centuries later, many of these grand cities had been swallowed entirely by vines, their people long gone. Why? What happened to one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world? One theory is environmental collapse. The Maya depended heavily on agriculture, but evidence suggests that they may have overfarmed their land. Vast deforestation, combined with cycles of drought, could have led to food shortages. Starvation may have weakened their society, driving people to abandon their cities in search of survival. Another theory points to endless warfare. Maya city-states often fought each other for dominance. Rivalries, betrayals, and wars consumed resources and lives. The monuments of kings often boast of victories in battle, but behind those victories may have been devastating losses that fractured the Maya world. Others suggest disease spread through the population, or that shifting trade routes cut off vital supplies. The truth may not be one single cause, but a storm of problems: drought, war, famine, political instability, all colliding at once, bringing mighty cities to their knees. And yet, the Maya story is not one of complete disappearance. Unlike the Nabateans of Petra, the Maya people did not vanish entirely. Millions of Maya descendants live today across Central America, speaking their languages, practicing traditions, and preserving a culture that never truly died. What disappeared was the great network of cities, the monumental heart of their civilization. Still, the mystery remains powerful. How could cities of tens of thousands be abandoned so suddenly? Imagine standing at the base of a Maya pyramid, the jungle thick and buzzing with life around you. The stone stairs rise high into the sky, built for rituals to gods of sun and rain. Yet the plaza below is empty. The murals fade, the stones crack, and nature reclaims what human hands once built. The collapse of the Maya reminds us that greatness is never eternal. A city can be filled with light one century and overrun by silence the next. Their disappearance is not just a puzzle for archaeologists. It is a mirror for us. What pressures, what storms of history could one day silence our own cities? As the jungle whispers through the ruins of the Maya, the question lingers. Did they fall to their own mistakes or to forces beyond their control? Not all lost civilizations lie hidden in deserts or jungles. Some stand in plain sight, in the very heart of North America. Near modern-day St. Louis, Missouri, sits a landscape that looks deceptively simple, grassy mounds rising quietly from the earth. But 1,000 years ago, this place was a bustling city of tens of thousands, larger than London or Paris at the time. This was Cahokia, the greatest urban center of ancient North America. Imagine standing in Cahokia around the year 1100. At its heart rose Monk's Mound, a massive earthen platform larger at its base than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Wooden temples crowned its top, where leaders performed ceremonies that bound religion, politics, and astronomy together. Around the mound, wide plazas spread out like gathering spaces for festivals, rituals, and markets. Smaller mounds dotted the landscape, each serving as a burial site, a temple base, or the home of elites. Cahokia was no small village, it was a true city. Archaeologists estimate its population at 20,000 to 30,000 at its height, and possibly more when surrounding areas are included. Its people built wooden palisades, plazas, and even a solar calendar known today as Woodhenge, made of giant timbers arranged to mark the solstices and equinoxes. Farmers grew maize, beans, and squash in surrounding fields, feeding a population that supported artisans, leaders, and priests. Traders carried goods from as far as the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico. Shells, copper, mica, and obsidian all found their way into Cahokia's markets. Life here was vibrant and complex. Children played in packed earth streets. Women wove textiles and pottery. Men hunted deer along the river. Ceremonial games were held on wide plazas, where crowds cheered with the same excitement modern people bring to sporting arenas. At night, fires and torches lit the city, smoke curling into the sky above the Mississippi River. And then, silence. By the 14th century, Cahokia was empty. Its mounds still rose from the earth, but its people were gone. Unlike the Maya, the Cahokians left no written language to explain their fate. Unlike the Nabateans, no monumental stone carvings remain to hint at their end. The city simply dissolved into absence, its memory carried only in fragments of oral tradition. Why did Cahokia fall? One theory is climate. Around the time of its decline, the Little Ice Age began, a period of cooler, harsher weather. This may have shortened growing seasons and brought devastating floods from the Mississippi River. Without reliable crops, hunger could have driven people to leave. Another theory points to overpopulation. With tens of thousands crowded into one place, resources may have been stretched thin. Forests around Cahokia were heavily cut down for building and fuel. Soil may have been depleted by farming. Disease could have spread quickly through dense neighborhoods. There are also signs of conflict. Archaeologists discovered evidence of palisades, defensive walls, suggesting the people of Cahokia may have faced threats from rivals or even internal unrest. Violence, hunger, and political instability could have unraveled the bonds holding the city together. But perhaps the truth lies in a mixture of all these forces: environmental stress, resource scarcity, political upheaval, and the fragility of complex societies. Whatever the reason, by the time European explorers arrived in the region centuries later, Cahokia was already a memory, its people dispersed into smaller communities. Today, the mounds still stand, green and quiet under the open sky. Visitors climb Monk's Mound and gaze across the plains, trying to imagine the city that once stretched as far as the eye could see. But it takes effort. Unlike Petra or the Maya pyramids, Cahokia's monuments are made of earth, not stone, and time has softened their edges. Yet the silence they hold is no less haunting. Cahokia reminds us that even in the heart of what is now the United States, there are mysteries as deep and profound as any found across the oceans. A mighty city, larger than its European counterparts, thrived here and then vanished. Its story warns us that even the most impressive human creations can crumble in the face of nature, conflict, and time. When you stand there today, with the wind rustling the grass over the mounds, you feel it. The echo of a people whose voices have long since faded, but whose presence still lingers, quietly, beneath the soil. When we look back at the vanished worlds of Petra, the Maya cities, and Cahokia, one question lingers above all others. Where did they go? The silence of their ruins does not give us answers. It only deepens the mystery. And perhaps that is what draws us to these places. The not knowing. The feeling that history has left us with an unfinished story. Civilizations are born. They grow, they flourish, and eventually, they fade. It has happened countless times, in countless corners of the world. The Indus Valley cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro once thrived with carefully planned streets, drainage systems, and trade networks, only to collapse into silence around 1900 BCE. The Olmec, the ancestral Puebloans, the builders of Great Zimbabwe, all rose with astonishing achievements, then dwindled into fragments, leaving questions hanging in the air. We often imagine civilizations as permanent. When we walk through modern cities with skyscrapers, airports, and glowing digital screens, it feels impossible that such complexity could ever disappear. And yet, the ruins remind us of a hard truth. Nothing lasts forever. Not kingdoms, not empires, not even the grandest cities. Think about Petra's Nabateans, who vanished as trade shifted to the seas. Think about the Maya, who faced drought, war, and social unrest until their cities were overtaken by jungle. Think about Cahokia, abandoned as floods, famine, or conflict made city life impossible. These collapses were not sudden ends of the world. They were slow unravelings, the threads of society pulling apart until nothing held the fabric together. And yet, within these disappearances lies a strange comfort. Civilizations may collapse, but they leave behind echoes, stone temples, earthen mounds, fragments of pottery, myths passed down through generations. Even silence has a story to tell. As we study these remnants, we are reminded that human beings, no matter how distant in time, were not so different from us. They worried about food, safety, love, power, and survival. Their children played in the streets. Their leaders dreamed of greatness. Their artisans carved beauty into stone and clay. They lived fully, and though they are gone, their presence lingers. Perhaps that is why standing among ruins feels almost sacred. Walk through Petra at dawn, and the rocks seem to glow with memories. Stand before a Maya pyramid in the moonlight, and you feel the hum of voices long vanished. Climb Monk's Mound in Cahokia, and the wide horizon whispers of a city that once pulsed with life. These places are not empty. They are filled with the presence of those who came before, as if time itself has chosen to hold their memory in stone, earth, and silence. And so, the endless mystery is not just about them. It is also about us. What stories will future generations tell of our world? If one day our skyscrapers stand abandoned, if our satellites stop orbiting, if our lights go out, what will remain of us? Will people thousands of years from now walk through our cities, puzzled by our disappearance, asking the same question we ask of the Maya and Nabateans? Where did they go? The cycle of rise and fall is woven into human history. Yet in that cycle lies a quiet beauty. To know that nothing lasts forever is to cherish what we have now. Our families, our communities, the moments of connection that make life meaningful. The ruins teach us not only about endings, but about the value of the present. As you prepare to drift into sleep, let your mind wander through those ancient ruins. Imagine Petra glowing in torchlight, Maya plazas alive with music, Cahokia's mounds crowned with wooden temples. See them not as empty, but as alive once more. Let the mystery comfort you, because mysteries do not always need answers. Sometimes they are meant to carry us into wonder, into reflection, and into dreams. So where did they go? Perhaps the better question is, where can their stories take us? Tonight, they take us into silence, into history, and into the quiet space where imagination and memory meet. A place where lost voices whisper softly in the dark. The ruins remain silent, yet alive with memory. Petra's carved cliffs, the Maya's temples, Cahokia's mounds, all remind us that even the greatest civilizations can fade, but their stories still whisper through time. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the past, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us again for more untold histories and forgotten worlds. Until then, may these echoes of ancient voices guide your dreams tonight.